Hey, it's Param from Perspective, and today I'm going to show you Perspective integration with DuckDB. So what we have here is a Perspective notebook, so I have some code that I'm going to run, and a Perspective dashboard that I'm going to interact with. The data that I have is US power plants and their output, and you see them here on the left, and I can come and actually explore that. So let's open the power plants. Right now it's showing all the power plants outputs, their net generation in megawatts, and it's only showing gas ones, but I can always change this. So here's the coal ones. If I want to like filter by hydro plant, so dams, I can do that. And what are we going to see here? So let's change this to solar. Also, if you have this link, so this is a Perspective dashboard, you can go to Perspective. I'm going to post a link in the comments, but if you have this link, you can just open that in your Chrome browser and follow along on your own. So let's open the notebook tab. Let's come and see what we have here. So what I have is two data sources, power plants and US postal codes. And one of the first things that I want to show you is ability to open data sources that you've imported through the Perspective data sources tab. So I have two data sources, again, the plants and the US postal codes already imported. And I can always go and add more of these. So if I want to, for example, connect to S3 bucket, HTTPS, or even some moving data like InfluxDB and NATS, I can do that and bring that data in. And once you do this, once you create a new data source, make sure you give it a name, the table name. And then once I do that, I can come and have the ability to import those into my notebook. Or if there is a data frame, I can then turn that into a dashboard or export that into a table that I can interact with. So let's take a look at the code here. So this code uses the Proton dash to open one of my data sources. So open a data source that I've named plants, and then transforms that into a data frame. And it can go back and forth. So I can also, if I have a data frame, I'm going to sample like 100,000 of that. I can use the Proton table to turn that into a table in my data sources that I can interact with in Perspective. So if I run this, you're going to see a new table pop open here, which is pretty much me reading my plants table and then putting that back out. And if I want, I can again, take a look at this. I can interact with this. So I can do group by, for example, fuel type. I can do all the interactions that I can do in Perspective with this table. But let's close this and let's get into the DuckDB. So in a Perspective notebook, I can easily run DuckDB, which is running actually in Pyodide or running in WebAssembly inside the browser. So by doing this, this runs a DuckDB SQL in my browser and gives me the result. And this is a pretty simple DuckDB query. It's just generating a random number. But let's do some more complex stuff. So for this cell, I'm going to create a DuckDB connection. I'm going to actually materialize my table. So the data frame that we imported above from our plants data source, I'm going to insert that into a table called plants. And then I'm going to run a query on it. So I'm just going to do a very basic aggregation. Of course, I could do this aggregation easily in Perspective, but just show you this query is running on DuckDB that's running in WebAssembly inside my browser. And then I get the result back and I put it into a Perspective table so I can then interact with it in Perspective. So let's run this. And you see, as soon as I run this, a new one popped open here. And that's the result of the query, the result of this data frame that I'm visualizing here. And again, I can do any aggregation, or I can do all the things that I can do in Perspective on this table. Let's close this. Let's do something a little bit more complex here. So this is a little bit more complex SQL statement, something that would be a really good use case Perspective, again, plus DuckDB. So you remember that I got my zips data source. So what I'm going to try to see, I'm going to see what are my most power hungry regions in US. And by that means, like, I'm going to group, like I'm going to look at all my US power plants, and then I'm going to get an average of like what's the power consumption by population within a 25-mile radius of that. So for this, I got to do some more complex SQL. I'm going to do some geographical like calculation to get the total population within a 25-mile radius of a power plant. So I do some geographical function, harvesting function to do that. And then once I get the total population, I'm going to do a group by of what was the actual output of that power plant and then divide it by total population. And then I'm going to rank these. So it's a multi-step SQL function that I'm doing with a CTE here. But then the result is going to be this efficient or this resulting SQL the population demand that I'm going to graph back in Prospective. So let's run this cell, and it should be pretty immediate. Once I run this, I get the result back here. And if I take a look at this, okay, I can see, which power plants have the highest demand around them. So, the population, what is the megawatt per hour usage of that population within. And I can see that, okay, there's a wind farm actually, and that's number one. And you can see these all ranked here and their demand. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what you can do with Prospective notebooks and DuckDB. Again, this one is running a DuckDB instance inside WebAssembly. Also Prospective, that it runs inside WebAssembly too. So this entire demo, it's running on your laptop, on your browser, and it shows you how you can load data into DuckDB, query it, and then use Prospective to visualize that and further analyze that data.